Let's talk about real life, huge, big blow up tantrums. Hi, I'm Ashley, your candid parenting coach, and I support parents who feel like whatever they're doing just isn't working anymore and it's time to shift. Okay, chances are if you're watching this video, you have a child at home with big tantrums, and I have been there. I know there's a million different tips and tricks out there to support parents to deal with big emotions. And honestly, I've been putting that out into the world too. I am so happy that we live in a world that is starting to support parents. But today I want to talk about the tantrums that nobody seems to be talking about. The ones that make your thoughts start to spiral. Thoughts like, why is this so hard for me? What am I doing wrong? Is there something wrong with my kid? I've been there. I come from a very behavior-focused background. I've been working with kids of all needs for 15 years. And I have been trained to see behaviors and document them and strategize them and fix them. Meltdowns and tantrums were just a part of our daily routine at work in a classroom of 30 children, as you can imagine. And I was witness to all different levels, from dropping on the ground and flailing to throwing bricks across a classroom. Don't even ask me where the bricks came from. And again, our response to these behaviors was, you guessed it, to focus on the behavior. It's about the kid. The problem is the kid. How do we fix it? Skip ahead 5 years and I have a 3-year-old who's having these big tantrums, throwing toys across the room, attacking the closest person to him, and finally taking it out on me. And I'm talking punching, kicking, scratching, biting, all of it. But the behavior approach I was such an expert in was the only approach I could take. It's about the kid. The problem is the kid. How do we fix it? That's not an easy approach when it's your kid, a kid you've been with since day one. So I dove in. I bought tantrum classes online. I followed all the research telling me to validate, comfort, and connect. And when I implemented these strategies, when he was having a big meltdown or he needed to be removed for safety of everybody, I was doing all of these things. I was saying all of these things. I hear you. You're feeling really frustrated that they're using your toy. I'm here. But guess what? While I was doing all this, I was getting my ass kicked. So I dove in again, Googling, how do you respond when your kid hurts you? And the research was just as defeating as the question. One would say, set a boundary. I won't let you hurt me, and remove yourself. Another would say, block his hits, but let him get them out. I was completely lost. In the moment, I felt like I had absolutely no choice. I didn't like the idea of leaving him, and in fact, when I did, his behavior would just escalate. And at the time, I was running a home daycare, so letting him get his feelings out didn't really seem like an option either. So I did what I thought I had to do. I restrained him. I know some of you were like, oh, and I get that. But remember, I have a very behavior-focused background. I, like many other teachers and educators, have been trained on how to safely restrain children. I won't go into all of the problems with this approach. But again, I am the candid, connected coach, and it will always be about honesty for me. And the reality is that is what's going on in many school systems and daycares in today's world. So yeah, I've been trained to safely restrain him. As I held him, my head was filled with thoughts. Why is he like this? What did I do wrong? Is there something bigger going on? Should I have him assessed? Basically, I was terrified. I was paralyzed from fear. I felt so alone. Yeah, everybody was talking about tantrums, but nobody was talking about this kind of tantrum. The kind where your child is so out of control that you have to hold them. And because of my past, I had seen how big these meltdowns could get. And I felt like we were heading down a path that I just did not want to be on. I was terrified. Why was this approach of validate, comfort, and connect that everybody was advising on blowing up in my face? Why wasn't it working for me? What is wrong with him? What is wrong with me? What am I doing wrong here? If you are here right now, stuck in these thought spirals, I am holding so much space for you. There is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. The reality is I was doing everything right and following all of the advice, but what was missing? Well, the reality of it is I was saying all the right things on the outside, but I was on fire on the inside. So as you can imagine, my words and my calm demeanor on the outside probably didn't feel all that authentic and genuine to my son. Also, self-regulation isn't something you can fake until you make. I was only able to sit there calmly for so long before losing it myself. Not exactly the lesson I was trying to model for my son. So how did it change? What did I do? Well, in all honesty, those tantrums still happen from time to time, right? But what has changed is me. I learned to look at those tantrums as healthy aggression instead of a big red flag that needed a diagnosis. I learned that developmentally he is on the right track, and that instead of breaking him into the environment and have an acceptable tantrum, whatever that is, I needed to change the environment and be able to meet him where he is at. I have been conditioned, like many of you, to view anger as a negative, dangerous feeling. So naturally, when his anger was coming out in that way, I was scared. Not of him as an aggressor, but of the feeling itself. But when we learn to stop seeing anger as dangerous and see it just as neutral, when we stop fearing anger in our kids and learn to welcome it and have security in it, our kids will stop fearing it as well. Because that's what was happening. 95% of what my body language was putting out was insecurity, fear, that he had zero control over his body. Because all kids under 7 have zero impulse control, but that's a topic for another time. Having no control over his big outward burst, he was also terrified, right? There's a whole lot of dysregulation going on there. So first, I had to do the work within myself to be able to understand why I was associating anger as this negative or dangerous feeling. Now, when these big feelings happen, I show up knowing that we are safe. Anger is normal and even useful. And I can be the calm, safe place he needs right now to process through whatever he is feeling. As I said, these big feelings still happen, and I am totally cool with that. I want him to have these big feelings with me. I want him to know he can show me these feelings and that I am going to be there when they happen. I'm going to help him regulate, and it happens much faster now when I don't fear it, right? I don't fear what's going on inside of him, so we can talk about the solutions after the fact. We get there. Now, I know this ending might feel far for some, and remember, I was in the thick of it for probably 2 years. I get it. And I know there are very real obstacles, diagnoses, multiple children, etc., etc. But if you are in the thick of it and you are struggling to see the light, please reach out. I want to walk with you through this. You do not have to live in fear. You do not have to do this alone. Click the link below to have more support.